Okay, in this video, what we're going to learn how to do is solve a quadratic written in the form of ax squared plus bx equals c. We have the c value on the other side here by completing the square. So this method is a method we're going to use, completing the square, when we're not able to factor something out. So what we have here is x squared plus 6x equals 216. Our goal is to make this, first off, we have to add a c to it, because right now what we have is x squared plus 6x, and we're missing that c value. We have to find what c value would go there to make it a perfect square trinomial. Okay, something that we can factor out very quickly. So in order to do that, you need to follow this rule. B divided by 2, and then square that value. So our b is the 6. All right, our b value is the 6. So I'm going to take that information right there and write it right here. 6 is my b divided by 2, and then square it. And just by doing that, it automatically is going to give you the value that you could put right there to make this a perfect square trinomial, something you can factor. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, and then 3 squared is 9. So 9 is what we're going to use. We're going to say plus 9. We now have a perfect square trinomial, something we can factor very quickly. And this is equal to, pay close attention here, this is where students make mistakes. 216, you have to say plus 9, because what we just did is we found a c value to put here. It wasn't there before. We did something to plug it in. If we're going to randomly add a 9 here, if we want to keep everything equal, we have to add that 9 over here. It's just like a barbell. If I put 5 pounds on this side, if I want to keep it equal all together, I got to put 5 pounds over on the other side. So now what I have is this perfect square trinomial. I know it's a perfect square trinomial because I followed this rule, and we ask ourselves, what number times itself would make a 9? 3. So we're going to say x plus 3 squared. It's a perfect square trinomial. What does that mean? Real quick, let's just do a quick review on this. X plus 3 squared is x plus 3 times x plus 3. When you FOIL, you'll end up getting this trinomial here. All right? So because we know it's a perfect square trinomial based on what we did, we found the proper value to put there to make that work. We can break it down very quickly into this. All right, so now I have x plus 3 squared equals 216 plus 9, which is 225. I'm happy because at this point I need to square root to get rid of that exponent. We need to get rid of that 3 and that exponent of 2. First part to get rid of is the exponent. Opposite of squaring is square rooting. That will cancel. Now I need to square root the other side to keep things equal. And I get x plus 3 equals positive and negative square root of 225. Remember, when you square root a value, there are two answers. There's a positive answer and a negative answer, because when you multiply two negatives together, you're going to get that positive value. So now I need to figure out x plus 3 equals the positive and the negative square root of 225. Let's break 225 down. When we square root it, it just turns into a 15. So we're really saying x plus 3 equals either positive 15 or negative 15. We have two equations to solve right now. We have x plus 3 equals 15, and we have x plus 3 equals negative 15. One scenario, it's a positive. One scenario, it's a negative. Solve both of them, and you'll have your two solutions to the quadratic. So I'm going to subtract 3, cancels, subtract 3. X can equal 12. Or subtract 3, x can equal negative 18. So my two solutions to this quadratic up here is x equals 12 and x equals negative 18. All right, let's go back through everything very quickly. So we have a quadratic written in ax squared plus bx equals c. We need to find a c value to put there to make this something we can factor out into a perfect square trinomial. We find that by doing this. This is going to be done all the time when completing the square. So make sure you know it. Memorize that. Now we need to get rid of this exponent, so we square root the other side. I like this because it comes out to something nice and neat. And then I solve for both equations, positive and negative. Now I'm going to show you a scenario where this isn't so nice and neat and how you would go about that. It's really not that much different. So let me erase this real quick and write a new one for you. Okay, in this scenario, the difference is we're not going to get the square root of 225, which comes out to a nice, neat whole number like 15 here. It's going to come out to a nasty decimal. All you need to do is round that decimal to the nearest hundredth. Okay, the go-to whenever you're not like told round to this value, typically you want to round to the nearest tenth or the nearest hundredth. I personally go to the nearest hundredth just because it gives you a little bit more information. So in this scenario, if I have x squared plus 4x equals 16, I don't have a c value. I need to find what c value would make this a perfect square trinomial, plus what will make this a perfect square trinomial. How I find that is by taking b divided by 2 and squaring it. So my b is 4. 4 divided by 2 squared. 4 divided by 2 is just 2. And 2 squared is 4. So I need to put a 4 right there. By doing that, I'm guaranteed to have a perfect square trinomial. So I look at this and I say, okay, x plus what? And that number times itself needs to equal the 4. X times 2, or x plus 2, excuse me, squared. It's a perfect square trinomial. It's not turning into two different binomials when we factor. It's turning into the exact same binomial multiplied by itself. Okay, that's what a perfect square trinomial is. It's when this just turns into x plus 2 times x plus 2. So we can just say x plus 2 squared. Now, if I'm going to add this, I should have a plus sign right there. If I'm going to add this 4 here, I need to add the 4 over here. This is the big thing I see students do all the time. Do not forget to add that 4 to the other side, or whatever that c value is. So now what I have is x plus 2 squared equals 20. And this is where I realize as a math teacher, like, oh, this is one of the nasty ones. I'm going to get a dirty decimal. So here I go. I'm going to square root to cancel out the 2, the exponent of 2. I'm going to square root over here. Do it to both sides. I get x plus 2 equals the square root of 20. Oh, I don't know what the square root of 20 is. And I would challenge anybody else out there to know exactly what it is. So I go to a calculator. That's what that tool is for. Square root of 20 is, and I get 4.4721359. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of information. Let's break it down to just 4.47. I just rounded it to the nearest hundred. But don't forget, this is a positive and a negative answer. So I need to say positive 4.47 and negative 4.47. Okay, now what I need to do is I need to solve for each one of these. I'm going to write x plus 2 equals 4.47 and x plus 2 equals negative 4.47. Solve each one of them. Minus 2 cancels. Minus 2, x equals 2.47. That's one solution. Minus 2 cancels. Minus 2, x equals negative 6.47. And we have our two solutions to this quadratic. Okay. Plug in the c value to make it a perfect square trinomial. Do that by doing this. Square root to get rid of the exponent. Make sure to say positive and negative. Solve each one, and you'll have your solutions to your quadratics. This is the completing the square method. Study hard and good luck on your upcoming test.